that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Hey friends, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well. I really do hope that. Chelsea have lost 1-0 to Nottingham Forest in the Premier League at home at Stamford Bridge and looked rather clueless. Early days, I suppose, in the Pochettino era at Chelsea Football Club. And yes, absentees remain, important absentees. Fofana, Badiashile, Reece James, Christopher Nkunku, etc. But still, this of course is no good. It's not good enough for Chelsea. It's ruddy wonderful for Nottingham Forest. By the way, they've only kept like one clean sheet, and I can't remember the statistic, but it's a long time. And it was against Arsenal, funnily enough. But they don't keep clean sheets. Enter Chelsea Football Club. A frustrating result for those of a Chelsea inclination. We're going to talk about it now. Please do consider supporting the channel by liking and subscribing as I try and dissect what was a horror show from Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea. Alright then, it's his hybrid, kind of a hybrid 4-2-3-1, but of course with the likes of Levi Colwill playing as a left back, left centre back, and also sometimes when he plays left back, he sort of inverts in the midfield. Thiago Silva and Disasi complete a sort of at times back three, but sometimes Malo Gusto, makes it a back four. You had Ben Chilwell, you had Caicedo and Gallagher kind of in the double pivot, and interestingly Enzo Fernandez as the number 10 playing a free role, which is a very interesting thing considering he used to be played, or at times has been deployed by the deepest midfielder, and now is being deployed of late as the most advanced midfielder. And you can understand why Pochettino is doing that, because he was probably on the day Chelsea's best performer. I'm looking at some statistics now, data, and he's the highest ranked on some data websites I'm looking at. So probably Chelsea's best performer. Chelsea did kind of change formation to a free diamond free towards the end. Loads of attackers on the bench, on the pitch, essentially. Pochettino really went for it. Of course, they were playing against a 3-4-2-1, often back five from Steve Cooper's Nottingham Forest. Resolute. They only had one shot on target, I believe. They had 25% possession, 5 shots in total, and Chelsea dominant in all. All the metrics, the stats, apart from the one that counts, of course. They had more tackles, more corners, more aerials, which is really shocking to me. 12 dribbles to their 3, but they sat back and they were defending a lead, which of course you'd expect them to, and it was a commendable performance. You have to also take into account few poor decisions from Chelsea. Nicholas Jackson missing what could be described as a sitter. I know he was lunging for the ball, but had he perhaps waited, there was probably time to get slightly closer and then pick out a finish, which he did not do. Once, of course, Anthony Elanga came off the bench and scored the only goal in the game, and what would ultimately prove to be the winner. Chelsea suddenly ran out of ideas and they started just putting balls into the box. And when you play a big team like Nottingham Forest that are, long in the tooth for defending these kind of balls, in terms of they know each other. They're a big team. They're aggressive, maybe a slightly more agricultural football than perhaps Chelsea. But it was really, really poor from Chelsea from then onwards. Totally lacking ideas. Of course, Taiwo Awoniyi assisting the winner, and he had scored in the 7 previous consecutive games, so he is the danger man. He remains the danger man. Maybe one for your fantasy Premier Leagues if you don't already have him. Maybe swap him out for Nicholas Jackson if you've got Nicholas Jackson. Frustrating. So yes, Chelsea. Look, I endorse a lot of what Pochettino's doing in terms of I quite like Enzo's new role. You get more out of him. I kind of okay with Colwill's new role as well. In terms of Sanchez, maybe he should have been able to do a little bit better on the goal, although I didn't hear the commentary team speak too much on that. I'll be interested to hear what you guys think in terms of, was it poor from the goalkeeper on Elanga's goal? I think it was a good finish and a great assist. Wonderful pass from Awoniyi. Very, very, especially for a goal-hungry striker, to just have the lucidity to play a ball in through like that. Just keeping your cool and Sanchez, I mean, out of this, none of the centre-backs I wouldn't dig out of Chelsea. Frustrating. Silva looked frustrated at times, probably because the players weren't moving where he wants to move. But make no bones about it, the issue with Pochettino's Chelsea is finding solutions to a low block and counter team. And ultimately, we've seen this just a couple of weeks ago against West Ham. It was the exact same thing. Chelsea, have a few chances. They have all the ball, but the opposition team let them have the ball. It's like that famous Jose Mourinho quote, excuse me, when he says, "They can take the ball home, I'll take 3 points." And David Moyes and now Steve Cooper will be saying the exact same thing to Pochettino. You can have the ball, mate. You can have over 3/4 of possession, but we are absolutely, that was in the London Stadium as well, and of course this was in Stamford Bridge. And, ultimately one concise, clean break, and, when they break through like that, they have so much space, because Chelsea is so used to being in the final third, defending high, that it's just a flip. The script flips essentially, and they're not prepared for that. They're not ready for that. I don't think defense is a massive issue. I think defending transitions important, but ultimately it's scoring goals. In terms of player performances, I do think Fernandes, I think Caicedo was very good. He's starting to look settled. He made a tackle that was really, really impressive. That looked sort of N'Golo Kante-esque. I can't remember if it was on one knee or not. But look, the centre-backs, the Nottingham Forest centre-backs, they just kind of had us on toast, really. They kept us at arm's length. Turner was rarely threatened, and he made a couple of good saves. Chelsea just don't have this kind of like ruthless edge. They're kind of leaning on Raheem Sterling. That's going to be likely their top goal scorer, but he can have moments when he's really, really good. And in the first half today, he had those moments. We can talk about Cole Palmer in just a moment. But Chelsea don't have that like ruthless. You either need to be like a Pep Guardiola team where you've got all this automated play, and Raheem Sterling and indeed Cole Palmer was a part of that, where everything's automated and you know exactly what to do, and you can break down these low blocks, but you have to be an incredibly well-oiled machine. And of course Guardiola is just top of the top, isn't he? And he knows exactly. He's had a long time to train his Man City team, but if you can't have that, and maybe that's eventually the plan for Chelsea under Pochettino, but in the meantime, you need just goal scorers, like relentless people. And Chelsea have banked so much on potential that they look very tidy and nice at times, but then when you come up against these low block and breaks and counter teams, you don't have that, I know it sounds really proper football man, but like the Diego Costa or the magic from, Eden Hazard. Maybe you could try and hope that Sterling does it, but you just don't necessarily think you're going to get that. Of course, we saw Pochettino throw everything at it. He brought on Madueke, Martin, Cole Palmer, and Michailo Mudryk. And Palmer probably Palmer and Madueke were the most impressive of the substitutes. Both under 21s England internationals. Of course, Madueke basically was the winner. Just sort of important factor to see Chelsea qualify to the next round of the Carabao Cup. He was Chelsea's probably best player in that game until Enzo Fernandez came on. And Cole Palmer is the new signing. He's the exciting sort of number 10, and he played as the number 10 in this game. He's sort of played in the hole, but drifted out to the right. Of course, he's left-footed, but getting between McKenna and Worrell, just the congested box. You have to applaud Nottingham Forest here. They did what they do, best. They had a really good away support, and they just dealt with crosses all day, and it's just kind of a little bit clueless from Chelsea. It's interesting to see Pochettino just throw the plan out the window for the second time. I think that we saw it against West Ham, and now we're seeing it against Nottingham Forest, where right, the plan doesn't work, the original starting 11, let's just get as many attackers on as possible. Now, this is kind of like football manager approach, isn't it? You just throw everyone on. Cole Palmer's had one training session, you throw him on. I hope to see him anyway, and he looked pretty good at times. But it's just, it's really not, it doesn't inspire confidence. What I'd rather see is a second formation trained, which is just completely different, which, the opposition team will not be ready for. Okay, right, we've been, defending in a 3-4-2-1, 5 back sometimes, defending deep in the box. We're used to, Enzo might have a free role, but we're used to the opposition players occupying certain spaces. Just flip it completely, just do a 4-2-4 or something, We didn't use the width anywhere near enough. And even the players that play in between the lines centrally, they weren't utilised enough. They weren't, showing for the ball enough. It's very, very frustrating. Congratulations to Nottingham Forest for their first clean sheet since the Arsenal game, and even then they just don't get clean sheets. Chelsea never really threatened them. We took 15 shots, but they were blunt. And we can have 75% possession, but it's not going to do anything. Where does Chelsea go from here? Well, they have an international break. Of course, most of Chelsea's players will be called up. Raheem Sterling won't be, which is frustrating for him. Pochettino has to look at these and say, like, how can we break down low blocks? It is, you can imagine if the window closed tonight as opposed to yesterday, or if this game was on the Friday night, Chelsea's owners would probably be looking into the market. But look, this is not a criticism particularly on any player. This is a systemic coaching thing. Chelsea players are very fit. They look, despite losing 1-0 to Nottingham Forest at home, this might be a difficult time to hear this, but there's at times Chelsea do look much more organised, than they certainly were last season, which maybe isn't saying much. But watching every game, scrutinising every game last season, I was thinking, oh God, what are they doing? And yes, we sort of descended in that towards the end, but it's kind of like a confidence thing as well. Whereas like there's elements in the first half, Gusto, his performance went off a cliff, but he started very well, Gusto. Caicedo sort of demonstrated his attributes, why he's a very expensive player. And Enzo's kind of carried on just constantly being like possibly our best performer in these games where everyone's getting lost. He's just consistently getting his head up, playing a ball, consistently, playing all these different kinds of intricate passes, and like I said, occupying different roles on the pitch as well. You can look back and go, oh, what if Nico Jackson scores that sitter, and what if this, that, and the other? But ultimately, you have to look at the game holistically, and we didn't have an answer for Nottingham Forest, and they were completely happy with how the game was played. And with that, you have to look at the manager. So, Pochettino, I know you've just got your feet under the desk and you need time, and you've got a big squad that needs to settle, and you've got injuries of key players. Fine. That's fine. But this will need to be sorted out, and hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm not sure what Chelsea's designs and targets are for this season, but a loss at home to Nottingham Forest and, getting slapped up by West Ham away 3-1. Granted, they did that to Brighton at their own backyard in the Amex, and Brighton are considered a certainly more well-trained coach team than Chelsea at the moment. But these are the games. I almost feel like Pochettino's Chelsea will do better against better opposition. We looked pretty good against Liverpool. We probably should have won that game, and Liverpool is certainly a good side. But ultimately, you're going to play so many teams in the Prem that play a low block and counter, whether it's West Ham, whether it's Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United will probably do it. Other teams will do it as well. You've got to find out a way to counter this. And also, good ball playing teams will defend like that when they're ahead. So you need to find the answer. Is it Cole Palmer in the middle? Is it a new formation, or is it just more cohesion and more time? Let me know. I'll be looking forward to reading your comments. Thank you for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.